Hey guys, what's up? So September is National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and you already know I'm going to have this conversation. I would like to help you have this conversation with friends and family, coworkers, you name it, around suicide prevention. It's something that we need to talk about, and I know that we can prevent. There's been an uptick in suicides here in our community, but also across the country. And so we want people to know what the resources are and that there is help. I was blessed to be a part of this amazing documentary series called Moving America's Soul on Suicide by David Covington. So I would like to share this video with you and video of other people like me who are suicide attempt survivors. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to share this video, and then we're going to make it real exciting and really cool for you to have guided conversations around this topic. So check out the information that we provided, and please be a part of this much needed conversation.
Well, anger is a response to another deeper situation going on, like hurt or wounds, but it usually has that component of power and control in it.
Yeah.
It helps you feel powerful in the moment.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm good at fighting. Not saying it's always a good thing, but, I just think I am. And that's why, again, but it means something different for me. It doesn't mean, I want to just fight everybody or I want to have a, bad behavior. To me, fighting is staying alive.
When I was a little girl, I had dreams of being a Broadway singer. Back in the day, my mama used to say, you don't even know your ABCs, but you know Al Green. But that's the kind of family I had. We lived in this amazing little neighborhood. We were poor. We know it because we had an abundance of love and of entertainment. And so I just had this amazing, childhood, and I was happy and I was laughing and I was vibrant. And then I was molested. And I remember turning into this beast. And I remember that little girl with the big forehead, with the big tooth, who wanted to entertain people. She died, and nobody grieved for her. Nobody said nothing. And that was hard. By the time I was 10, I was sexually active on my own. 12 was the first time that I tried to kill myself. And so I remember getting out the hospital in New Orleans, and I came home. Nobody never said anything in my family. Nobody asked Tonja, why did you do it? They just told me, you need to go to church and you need to trust God more. I'm like, okay. I started, acting out more. I started getting kicked out of school more. I never forget the first time that I was raped. It was very violent, and it was with a person that I wouldn't have expected it to be by. And I never forget, feeling so vulnerable that he beat me that I passed out. That's when it really got bad. The behavior worsened because I went from doing marijuana, and marijuana, became pills. Pills became cocaine. There was a friend of mine, she told me, she said, hey, look, my uncle, he has a lot of money, he's looking somebody just to kick it with. And that's when I began to prostitute. I felt I was in control because men had messed over me for so long. This was me basically taking my power back, which was ridiculous because there was a part of me that was disgusted by what I was doing. And the more I did it, the more I hated myself. I remember
my mom said that when I tried to kill myself, that was the first time she seen my dad cry. And you had to know my dad. My dad was a strong man. He was very sure of himself. He was like a drill sergeant. He figured he had to train me to be stronger. I think he saw suicide as, my daughter being weak. And there's no way my daughter can be weak. He just taught me to be strong. He taught me to believe in whatever I believe in, to stand up for it and to fight for it. Anyway, so like I said, I had a whole lot of trauma and a whole lot of drama. And what happened is that I was going to college and I was not going to class. And so I was just doing drugs and just hanging out in the boys' dormitory, doing my thing. Eventually he found out that I was not going to school. And so he was like, you know what, I'm done with you. I've been giving you money and you have not been enrolled in nobody's class. If you want to go to college, you go down your own. I'm like, oh, okay, I got it. So I went and signed up for the military. I remember taking the test and I didn't score high enough to be military police. And the recruiter said, well, I can probably help with that. And I went, dog, men must know that something about me. I always said I was like manure. I have cows and you can smell the manure from the cows. And if you go close to it, you see flies. And I just saw myself being manure and bad men was flies. And they just found me. So I'm just like, okay, so I, performed sexual favors. And that's how I, was able to get my score high enough to be military police. The military was some of my best times because what it did was it gave me a sense of purpose. I love camaraderie, I love teamwork. And so, like I said, I was trained to fight while wounded by my dad. And then in the military, they teach you, bombs bursting in air, you get shot, you still better, pick up your weapon and keep it moving and aim back at the enemy. But here's the deal, I was always fighting the enemy and I didn't know what it was. I finally got in a good space. I did a lot of rehabilitation. I got off the drugs and I think I had been clean for like maybe 4 years. And that's when I met this guy, Darren, who was going in these communities, underserved communities, every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. He would go out and he would give food to the homeless. He was going into prisons. He was going to the Salvation Army and, just, encouraging men and things like that. And I'm like, I want to do what he's doing. And so we began, ministry or working out in the community together. And so when I told him, I'm like, look, I want to start a program on Friday nights to help people with addiction. And he was just like, okay. And so we started in my grandmother's house. Then it moved to a friend of mine's house who was a social worker. And then it moved into a church. And before you knew it, it just became something huge. The name of it was Set Free Indeed, from the scripture John 8:36. Whom the Son has set free is free indeed. And what we did is that we provided a safe space for people every Friday night who had an issue with addiction of any kind, their family member. It started off to maybe being, 15 people to like 200 a night. And we were able to serve food. We did breakout groups and all this other stuff. And while we continued to serve in the community. And so what happened is that one day we're doing all this amazing work, me and Darren, and I get a call and I don't answer back because it was a 202 number. And then 2 days they kept calling. And so then on the third day they called the church we were at and they were like, hey, we're looking for Tonja. And so they was like, Tonja, the White House is calling you. President George W. Bush would like you to be his guest at the State of the Union address.
Our fourth goal is to apply the compassion of America to the deepest problems of America. For so many in our country, the homeless and the fatherless, the addicted, the need is great. Yet there's power, wonder-working power, in the goodness and idealism and faith of the American people. Addiction crowds out friendship, ambition, moral conviction, and reduces all the richness of life to a single destructive desire. Yet for those already addicted, the fight against drugs is a fight for their own lives. Too many Americans in search of treatment cannot get it. Our nation is blessed with recovery programs that do amazing work. One of them is found at the Healing Place Church in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. A man in the program said, "God does miracles in people's lives, and you never think it could be you." Tonight, let us bring to all Americans who struggle with drug addiction this message of hope. The miracle of recovery is possible, and it could be you.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. You know, it is. I think it's going to be interesting for people to go, so wow, you know, you went through all that and you never said nothing. And you're supposed to be so strong, and, you know, you were doing so much. And how is it that, you know, how is it that that can be the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
So even doing this, you know, I think about, you know, what people are going to say. Because, you know, I'm used to doing, you know, stuff, you know, like this, but, you know, telling this story, you know.
Yeah, it's a different part of the story.
It's a different part of the story, you know.
Yeah.
It's easy to say, oh, yeah, 30 years ago, you know, I'm off drugs, and, you know, it's been a great journey, but to say, yeah, 5 years ago, you know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't even like the thought of it coming out of my mouth. Because again, I'm still think how people are going to, you know, see, or they're going to judge me. You know, I'm not really harping on it, but I think that, you know, wait a minute, how is it that, you know, you have all this faith, you have all this stuff going for you, and you still have suicide ideations? You know, that whole experience, you know, doing all that phenomenal work on a national stage, you know, was a blessing and still is. And it opened up so many opportunities for me to share my story of hope, that recovery is real, And so it was just an amazing journey. But again, nobody saw how dark and deep and how depressed I was. And my husband knew, but he didn't know what to do. Darren and I started having some marital issues, you know, fast forward some years later. When me and Darren first got married, we had to have extensive counseling because of my background. You know, like one of the questions was, so if you're walking in the mall and you see a guy she turned a trick with, you know, how you gonna feel about that, Tonja? Darren, what you gonna feel about that? So it was stuff like that most married people don't talk about that we had to talk about. And so anyway, we were just having these challenges, and I needed a break. I'm like, I just need a break. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I need a break. I left and I stayed in a hotel for 10 days. And then a friend of mine found out that I was in a hotel, and they were like, you need to come live with us. They had a guest house. And I remember us having a fallout on the phone, and I'm thinking like, wow, I failed at being a wife. You know, nobody is going to side with me. I wasn't asking anybody for sides, to take sides for me and Darren, but because of my past, I know I was going to get the blame for everything. And I'm just like, you know what? I just can't take that shame. And so before you know it, I started, you know, journaling. And then journaling started into writing. And before you know it, I was, you know, full-fledged suicide thoughts. And as I'm writing, I began to start planning. And basically, I just wanted my family to know that, look, this is my decision. This is my life. It's my decision. You couldn't love me enough. I know y'all love me, but I'm done. I'm tired. I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired. And I began to write a 4-page letter, you know, to, you know, basically to all of them, you know, telling them how much I love them. And so I remember it clearly. After I wrote the letter, I went and got my medications, and I got in my car, and I'm just like, okay, I just need to find a space that somebody can find me pretty quickly. I reached out to my cousin who had PTSD. And he had just finished his time as being a Marine. And I'm like, I just need him to tell everybody, look, I'm good. And for some reason, I thought that he would understand. So I called him. I'm like, look, cuz, I'm done. I'm tired. You know what I've been through with, the things Darren and I, and I'm just done. I love y'all, but I don't need nobody to be hurt by this. And so I remember him just going, cuz, what are you talking about? And no, cuz, and I remember just hanging up the phone. And so he tried to call me back. I wouldn't answer. He tried to call me back again, and then my nephew and nieces start calling me, and I did not answer. And so I'm riding around trying to find a park, and then I get a phone call from a friend of mine, Sharon. And the reason why I answered her phone call, because a friend of hers had just died, her best friend. And I remember when Ronnie died, I didn't go to the funeral because I was sad. I wasn't sad that Ronnie died. I was sad that Ronnie wanted to live and she died. I don't want to live and I'm still alive. And so she said, Tonja, please come to my house. And I hung up the phone. She called me back. And I'm like, okay, I'm coming to your house. And I was lying. And she's like, well, just stay on. She's like, I'm going to stay on the phone until you come to my house. And I'm like, no, I'm good. And I say, I tell you what, I'm going back to my house or back to the guest house. And for some reason, I had a come to myself moment. And I went back to the house. And as soon as I went back to the house, I turned the corner and there was 2 police cars. So I'm like, you know what? I do this for a living. I got it. I got this. And so I said, look, I said, me and my husband just having a bad time. We're just going through some challenges. I'm good. He's like, well, there's a lot of people, concerned about you. A lot of people are looking for you. And I said, look, I was just with the sheriff today. I was with such and such, and I started rolling down names. And he's like, I know you. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you're the lady, I've seen you on TV. He's like, wait a minute, you do stuff with law enforcement. I'm like, yeah, that's me. So I'm like, I know I'm good now. So I just started talking to him. And then he's like, you know what, Miss Myles, wait a minute. So he went to the car and made a call. And then he came back and he said, I'm sorry, there are a lot of people concerned about you, even the sheriff. You need to go to the hospital. I got locked up for like 7 to 8 days. And I remember the look, some of my friends and family came to visit me, and I remember the look on their face. They were horrified. I never want to see that look on anybody again. And then I realized that, this pain that I'm feeling, if I do this, the pain don't leave, it just transfers to them. So I ended up going to therapy, which was one of the best decisions I ever made. And so it's been 5 years that I haven't not had a suicide ideation or any thoughts of suicide. And people ask me, so what do you contribute that to? Besides my faith, I contributed to being in therapy. Therapy ain't scary, because it's my hour. I do all this amazing stuff for everybody else, which I'm grateful to do it, but it's my hour. And I don't have to feel selfish about having an hour for myself. I didn't know what was going on with me. My family didn't know. That's not why they didn't know what to do. I didn't know what trauma was. And the sad thing is, I've worked with people with addiction, most of my, adult life, having a treatment facility, working around psychiatrists and doctors and therapists, and just never put 2 and 2 together that, it was trauma. And when there was a name put to the pain, then I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm wounded, but there's hope. And there's a process to this pain. There's a process through getting out of this trauma. And so that's why it clicked for me so fast, because I was like, oh, now I get it. That's why I act like that. I wasn't a bad person. I wasn't an evil person. I was wounded. I was trying to fight for my life. The other thing that has helped me is that I go to a trainer 3 times a week, and he has this thing called Mind and Muscle, which has been a game changer. It's for athletes who have been wounded and now they have to get back in the game, and it teaches them how to overcome that hurt. And it's been a game changer for me to teach me how to stay in the present. It teaches me to fight, because I can fight, but I can't fight angry. Who knew, you know? And that I'm a natural born fighter. I fight for people who don't have a voice. You know, I fight for people, but I have to be in a good space to fight for people. And just like I fight for people, I have to fight for myself.
Tonja is a defensive fighter. Reason why I say that, you like to take your time with things and understand it before you just jump to the offensive real quick. Like I say, you can get knocked out very easily in this ring by underestimating your opponent. And that's one thing you never do. You never underestimate a situation. You'll analyze it like very, very good first. I like that. You'll really analyze, be like, all right, D, wait a minute. All right, I'm just go ahead and just do this. And then it's like, boom, you got it. The great thing about that is you get to see things for what they can be, opposed to just seeing them for what they are. Because when you see something for what it is, that's just at the moment. Like you said, you don't want to just live in that moment. Like when you put yourself in the present, anything can happen. Like if you put yourself in the moment, it's just a short instance of that present. So it's like, that's why I say I like you being a defensive fighter. Like you really can just sit back and just, okay, boom, I got it. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
See, yeah.
Yeah. Then the other thing that has been a game changer for me is that my family and friends, they know I'm open with them when I'm struggling. You know, if I call right now, 4 o'clock in the morning, and just say, hey, I need, and they're probably at my door before I finish the sentence. And I want to lead by example to them that they can live a good life. A mental health diagnosis does not have to define you, because I know some of them suffer with depression and anxiety. So it's imperative for me to be open and honest with them on what my struggles were, you know, what challenges I may face now, but to let them know that they're not alone, we're not alone, and whatever it is, we're gonna get through this as a family. And that's the real deal. I was always tired. You heard me say, you know, I'm tired. But now I'm determined when I die, I'm not gonna die tired. I'm gonna die empty. So I still have a lot of purpose to do on this earth, and that's what I'm gonna do, help save people. I used to couldn't have any pictures of myself at that age.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, because I felt sorry for her, because I felt that she died and nobody ever grieved.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she died and nobody ever grieved for her. But now, you know, I can look back and I see the pictures, and yeah, you know, I kind of feel like that. I feel like her again. You know, yeah, she didn't die. Yeah, she didn't die. Oh no, she didn't die. No. Mm-mm.